we're seeing this come up, and it's a model that we hope will trickle all the way down. However, I also know that being an employer of labor in a field where, for example, persons with disabilities might be,
there are barriers.
Yes, there are barriers, but we still have these expectations. And taking, for example, an employer who is willing to expand their frontier to be inclusive and would maybe like some help and would want to get in front of a policy like this.
Yes.
Is there something that you could recommend? I apologize that I'm staying on you, but I want conclusive outcomes. Is there something that, from your experience, from your expertise, that could be done to enable such employers to take those steps?
All right, definitely. First is the National Commission for Persons with Disabilities. Okay. There is a fund, both private, public, funded, that is available for organizations, businesses that want to adopt disability inclusion, employ persons with disability, but do not have the resources to do that. That funding provides a form of support, but that is in terms of the costs of disability. But in terms of the expertise, understanding, a lot of employers want to, but they are not confident. How do we speak with persons with disabilities? How do we make sure that our space is inclusive? That is where organizations like mine come in, where we can audit your organization. Where are the gaps? What are the things you need to do in terms of your policies, maybe employment policy? For example, if you put a vacancy out there, but you have put it in such a way that a visually impaired person cannot access that vacancy, you have automatically excluded, persons with visual impairment. If someone comes for an interview in your organization, say an hearing impaired person, and there is no sign language there's no sign language interpreter there, you have automatically disqualified that person. That is where organizations like mine come in to help audit your process, your policy, your people, your platform, and then the physical space. How can this accommodate? Then we make recommendations. Over the years, we've had a big business in Nigeria rebuild their head office just so that they can be disability compliant. But that is even like a big step, right? But there are a lot of other smaller adjustments that are inclusive. Is it accessible for persons with disabilities? If we can take some of those low-hanging fruits there, make adjustments. Sometimes it's just the attitude of persons in your organizations that are manning some of these key places like customer service, your receptionist. If a person with disability come in, can they interact? Do they know the language to speak with them, right? So if we can come in, do that audit, make recommendations, and do some form of training, it will boost your confidence, and you can be sure that if any person with disability come into your organization, they can work both as staff and as customers.
Love it, love it. Thank you so much. And taking a leaf from what you've just given now, you've pretty much given us a 5-minute consulting hand, and probably there's a business online or in the room, and they're making these plans in their head. And I'm sure that their next question will be to Mrs. Eugenia. I'm also asking this question because these are aspects of impact reporting. Now, should employment impact reporting be integrated into procurement performance reviews, and why?
If we're talking about what my brother just talked about, yes. And like again, I'm going to use the opportunity to say, we are listening. He was just asking me while we were talking if the National Commission on Persons with Disability are part of the stakeholders that reviewed the policy. And I said to him, yes, because they actually sent in the review of the draft. They wanted us to include some things, and it is right there included. So yes, for government needs to put in the measures that would show that we are disability compliant. And I just made a note here, even on our own website, we're starting with us, because everything that we do, we want to walk the talk. Say yes to your question.
So is there some specific provision that a business in the room might want to look at? What does it sound like? How can I take that and make it a business decision?
Again, I'll say, from the government end.
Yeah, from the policy perspective
Yes.
now.
So from the policy perspective, what we have decided, or let me not say because we're not done yet.
Yes, I mean,
to
it's still a
say
process.
Part of the requirement for compliance to get it, the contract is apply with the quota that has been set aside for person with disability.
Fantastic. I love that. So I'm going to take a line right from there and go straight to Mrs. Akinwumi. Alethea Capital has been, and I know this personally as well because we started doing some work with them, and when I say we, I mean the Nigerian Association of Small-Scale Industrialists. And I'm wondering, because it has also been flagged as one of the challenges that a lot of women-owned and women-led businesses have. So it makes me wonder, now that this is pretty much like a requirement of the policy, and impact reporting is probably far from the agenda of the average woman-owned business. But this is not a problem. It just poses an opportunity, which makes me want to ask you, how can we empower women entrepreneurs to create thorough business plans that show financial institutions that they have growth potential, and also how to unlock job creation at scale using this affirmative procurement policy?
Okay, that's a very long one you asked.
It is, but
so I'll speak a lot from good afternoon everyone, from the perspective of the work that we've done with women over the years. So you may not know this, but Alethea manages the largest gender fund in sub-Saharan Africa. It's a $102 million fund. 6, 7, 8 years ago, in fact 8 years ago, when we started the journey, it was an impossible thing. I mean, the first question is, why a gender fund? But now that we're reporting progress 5 years later, it is clear to us that this is so much needed. And I came here on a very short invitation because I thought this is an excellent platform to advance the work that we're doing. What does it mean for women who need to advance on their business? Now, a few learnings though. Women, we need to kind of stand up. There's a lot of issues around what we think is our incapacity or inability to perform or to deliver. And some of the work that we have done is extensively on the technical assistance capacity building side. The language of a business plan is the language of money, is financial. It is not qualitative, it is quantitative. We can be as technically sound as we like, as we can be, and most women are, because most women will go over and beyond, to prove their ability to do this work. However, when you're talking, the reason why you're writing a business plan is because you want to demonstrate the innate potential of your business, your ability to raise capital, to get the support that you want from investors. The investors speak a language finance-based.
Right.
So no woman in this room, should exclude themselves from financial literacy. You don't have a choice if you run a business. And as we speak to, I might be digressing a little bit, as we speak to this policy, it's important that it is somehow backed by the right financial structuring to start with, so that when we want to pilot the program, it's not just about getting behind to get into procurement, it's also about how do you then support the women to understand what it means to financially couple the transaction and make it of it, is backing it by excellent capacity building. All women need to scale up. I heard the DG, I think that's his title, say, if you have a one-man business, scaling up is beyond financial scaling up. It's also about impact. your structure, your governance framework. And what is being measured today is different from what was being measured 20, 30 years ago, because your investors are not just looking for money, they're looking for how you're making impact in the environment and how you're making social impact. So we need to open ourselves up to the education that is required for us to be able to be successful at this.
Love it, love it, love it. So I hear you, and I hear you say a lot of things about the work that women need to do. And I think we also came to a very, real conclusion that many of these women are also not strong enough to do a lot of this work on their own. And at the same time, government has this onerous task of reaching each and every one person. But there is this bridge in the middle which says that you can come together, you can collaborate. And I also say to we were having a conversation earlier, and I said to Mrs. Eugenia, I said, you can hardly regulate something with which you are not intimate. So if government is not really seeing these businesses, feeling their pain, and knowing what it is that really ails them, it is hard. You may be making laws and policies at this trajectory, and businesses are actually off on the other tangent. But I see something that needs to be done, and I think on this panel, one person that I would really love to ask, because she has, not only is she head of women banking now for Fidelity, she has a very rich experience in the events, aggregating space, and she has seen a lot of women Harambee that is coming together to do stuff. What would you tell women, especially women who are in their silos and are thinking, okay, I can't do this on my own. I would like to get together with other women, like-minded women, so that maybe we can get into something like this. What would be your practical, experience-backed advice to them?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon, ma'am.
So what we really need to understand is that any woman needs a good financial institution to back up their business. So gender responsive financing will because if you bank with a good bank, Fidelity Bank, we have a separate desk for women that caters strictly to women's businesses. We'll help from the beginning, from scratch, from capacity building, from ideas, from advisory points of view, and trainings. And we guide you through your businesses and help you to scale up. So it's definitely very important for you to bank with the right bank.
And of course, Fidelity is the right bank.
Fidelity is the right bank. Thank you very much.
I'm not advertising for them. Thank you so much. So it's possible for, if you're listening online, it's possible for you to go to your bank and ask to be aggregated with other women. This, I think, is pretty much what you're saying, because you see all these women in their own individualities, and sometimes you can use the instrumentation of the bank and the reach of the bank to pull them together. Maybe invite them to a program, and there they can Harambee and pull together. Excellent. I want to interrupt us at this point to please ask to excuse Mrs. Oje because she has a flight to catch. However, I know that there may be other questions likely to be directed to her. Inter-Bau Foundation will provide you with a link to their office, but as earlier stated as well, you can always go to BPP's website and try to reach her or an appropriate desk. We thank you very much for coming, ma'am, and also for your attendance on this session. Thank you. So back to the issues. You've been advised. Get a professional and ask to see people. But also earlier, Mrs. Adenike Ajala said something. She said it's good for you to plug into an organization. And I will say this also from experience. Many times, banks hardly attend to you in the strength of your own person. You stand a higher chance of being able to get something out of your bank if you are practicing what we call collective bargaining. There are many things. I know that a short while ago, when we approached the BOI on behalf of our members, there was this long list of impossible documents to get. And we negotiated that document all the way down because we know our people. We know what they can get. We know what they have. And we're able to negotiate. So yes, it is good for you to belong to the numbers somewhere. And that will bring me to Mrs. Mofoeke. Mofoeke, is it possible in your experience for women who are, because women's right is right at the niche of what you do, who are to get into these spaces, especially male-dominated spaces, because they have either experienced some kind of discrimination or even harassment, and we've heard it said in the undertones on the panel earlier today, that sometimes it's not because a woman is not qualified, her business is not well put together, but they don't want to put themselves in spaces like this where they can easily become targets. How does your organization deal with these kinds of cases? And what would a woman-led or woman-owned business in this situation, what should they do? What would you recommend, either to the policymakers or to the women's group who are going to negotiate?
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Good afternoon, everyone. I think I'm going to be speaking from both sides today because I was also part of the technical working group that developed the policy.
All the better for us.
So I would say that, of course, there's sex for work when it comes to, particularly in the construction world. If you don't open your legs, you don't assess some sort of opportunity. It is not directly requested, but it is inferred, so it's an issue. Now, for us as non-profit organizations, CSOs working in this space, I would say the first thing is looking at it from the policy goal. I think when we're developing the policy, one of the first things that I said was that people do not trust government.
True.
Right. So, because a lot of persons that I spoke with about the policy would say they already know who they are giving this contract to. And the people they give the contracts to know what they do to get the contract. So this is what I said. This policy is going to run on a digital backbone. That's going to address so many issues.
Right.
That's number one. The policy makes a provision for 30% upfront pay. And we all know that there's a 90-day payment with government contracts.
Yes.
So we are saying that this 30% upfront payment is a lifeline for women, particularly women who had paid upfront. So which means that it is not optional. You have to pay the 30% within the 90-day period, not after. That reduces the exposure to vulnerabilities. And we also know that vulnerabilities when it comes to these things are on three strands: lack of assets, lack of financing, and then exclusion from formal markets or formal employment.
Yes.
So the policy itself will address all of these things, particularly if it runs well on the digital backbone that we said. So there's going to be reduced sex for work on one hand. There's going to be some sort of soft landing for women in construction to be able to do the things they need to do without necessarily exposing themselves to these things. So I would say that if the policy runs the way it ought to run, we will have reduced, issues. As to what we do to help women access these opportunities, we cluster women.
Okay.
Right? So sometimes I've seen from experience.
What do some of these clusters look like?
So for example, there was a time we were working on a trade project.
Okay.
And we clustered women and called them Araha women. That's Araha markets.
Okay.
So these women are able to engage with chambers of commerce.
Okay.
They're able to engage with government institutions. I remember we had funding from, or support, let me not say funding, support from government institutions like the Women Affairs, the Bank of Industries, and all of this, the Abuja Chamber of Commerce at that time, the fact that we're able to aggregate these women helped. So for women in construction, I would say that for this policy to work, we need to leverage the civil society organizations.
Right.
Because they are closer to the ground for truth.
Right.
So they are able to also identify the organizations led by women that have true capacity.
Right.
So when these people come together, they can joint bid. And then there's also the whole idea of burden in procurement. It means that you have a bigger organization,
Yes.
bringing in smaller organizations
Right.
around to mentor and handhold them to be able to bid for jobs themselves, and then joint bidding and all of that. I'm going to rest it here.
Okay.
For now. Thank you.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. And this is so insightful as well, because I'm putting my woman-owned business hat on, and I'm thinking, okay, one of the things that I might need to do is to get into one of these clusters and become visible to government, and which is really what a lot of these women-owned businesses need. My sister, Ms. Tosin Abajo, is a little bit challenged with her vocal cords today, and so while she has done a lot to contribute to this session, I want to ask a question, and I'm thinking of a question that I can ask that she can answer for me in as few words as possible. In your experience being Lagos State Coordinator Smidden, is it possible for this policy to work and work all the way down? All the way down meaning to the average Mama Basira enterprises, or somebody who sells fabrics in Oshodi. If it is, what do you look for in order to be able to handhold them? Because being the government agency in charge of small business development, what would you require the most for them in order to be able to bring them into this circle?
Good afternoon, everyone. Apologies, please. My voice is really bad. So, yes, it is possible. So what we actually do is that we ensure that these businesses are aware of what they need to do to be structured. So we go out on sensitization and awareness creation on structuring their businesses through formalization. And Good Enough Smedan is in collaboration with CAC right now, and we are trying to formalize 250,000 businesses where you can register on our platform and take advantage of this goodie that is out there.
Fantastic. Thank you so very much. And I'll finish that off for her, because Nasi is also on the board of Smedan, and I know for a fact that one of the things that Smedan does so well is this awareness and sensitization. They have them programs all set up. In fact, there is a business development service provider group that Smedan has that provides these services to individual businesses. And it is in fact that many of those businesses usually don't have to pay what they would have paid if they were consulting a BDSP on their own. Because I think Smedan subsidizes the cost of developing businesses. So these I see as one of the things that businesses, women-owned, women-led businesses can tap into in order to be able to get to where we were told earlier, what the government is looking for, what BPP is looking for. And so for this session, I think one of the key takeaways for me would be that the help for women to be able to get in shape, to position for readiness, for procurement, will come from very many chapters. It will come from the banking system, it will come from civil society organizations, because there are also rights issues involved here. And for those rights issues, they can be demographic based as well. There are women's rights, sexual rights, there are rights for persons who are living with disabilities. There's also some provision that I think is good to bring to the fore here. The Commission on People living with disabilities has some kind of support that they give to businesses who are ready to reshape their businesses to be more inclusive. And that's one thing I see that we can all I would like to thank very much every member of this session.